After my mother's funeral, I spent several days clearing out her old room in the house I grew up in, going through years of things she had left behind. My name is Mallory Stewart, and at 37, I never imagined I would be the one handling everything alone while carrying the weight of losing her. The house felt unnervingly quiet as I opened drawers and closets trying to decide what to keep and what to let go. One afternoon, while cleaning the nightstand beside her bed, my hand brushed against a thick envelope hidden beneath the bottom liner. It was covered in dust, as if it had been untouched for a very long time. I sat down on the floor and opened it out of pure curiosity. Inside was an old crumpled photograph, along with a few folded papers yellowed by age. I stared at them for a long time, a deep sense of unease settling in. Something about what I was holding made it clear that there were parts of my mother's life I had never been told about. I placed everything back into the envelope and carried it with me, my mind racing with questions. When I showed the envelope to the lawyer, he reviewed its contents silently for several moments. Then his expression changed. His face went pale, and in a low voice he said, "Oh my God, don't let your sister find out." My heart began to pound as his words hung in the air. I stood there frozen, unable to respond. Whatever my mother had hidden all these years, it was clear that the truth had the power to destroy everything I thought I knew about my family. And that was only the beginning. Before we dive deeper into this shocking discovery that turned everything I knew about my family upside down, I'd love to know where you're watching from today. Drop your city in the comments below, and make sure to subscribe for more real-life stories like this one every day. From the time I was little until I grew up in our Hill District home in Pittsburgh. Mom worked night shifts as a nurse to support my sister Autumn, and me never once complaining about money troubles or the absence of our father. She would come home exhausted in the early morning hours, still manage to prepare simple meals for us before catching a few hours of sleep, then wake up again to help with homework or drive us to appointments. Mom handled all the bills on her modest salary, often skipping things for herself, so we could have school supplies or occasional treats like ice cream after a good report card. She shielded us from any bitterness about the man who left before I was born, choosing instead to focus her energy on making sure we felt secure and loved every single day. Her strength became the foundation of our lives, showing us through quiet actions how to persevere, no matter what challenges came our way. Mom always tried hard to divide her time and affection equally between me and my sister Autumn, so neither of us ever felt left out or less important. She made a point of alternating special outings, taking one of us to the library one weekend and the other to the park the next, ensuring both got individual attention. Mom paid close attention to our different interests, remembering Autumn's love for drawing and my passion for reading, buying supplies, or books that matched what each of us enjoyed most. She sat with us separately to hear about our days at school, offering advice tailored to our personalities without showing favoritism in front of the other. Mom frequently reminded us that her love for both daughters was exactly the same, expressed in ways that fit who we were as individuals. Still, I often noticed Mom lingering longer in conversations with Autumn after coming home from late shifts, sharing stories from her own younger days that seemed reserved just for her. Those quiet moments in the kitchen or living room would stretch on while I stayed in my room, hearing muffled voices, but not the full details of what they discussed. Mom would recount experiences from her nursing training or family tales from before we were born, opening up in a way that felt more intimate during those times with Autumn alone. It happened regularly enough that I began to recognize the pattern, though Mom never made it obvious or intentional in any hurtful way. Those extended talks became something I observed from a distance, wondering what made Autumn the one Mom chose for those deeper shares. On many weekend evenings, Mom would gently pull Autumn aside to the kitchen corner for private chats, while I remained nearby but not fully included in the discussion. They would talk about everything from school friends to future dreams, with Mom offering guidance that seemed to flow more easily in those settings. I could hear laughter or serious tones drifting through the doorway, catching only fragments as I passed by or pretended to read in the next room. Mom's voice carried a certain warmth during those sessions, delving into topics she rarely brought up when all three of us were together. It left me curious about the bond they shared in those moments, even as I understood Mom was simply responding to whatever Autumn needed at the time. I never held it against Mom, instead, quietly assuming Autumn might require that extra closeness for reasons I did not fully understand, even if it sometimes left me feeling a bit on the outside in my own home. Those thoughts stayed private as I watched their interactions, convincing myself it balanced out in other ways. Mom showed care for me. The difference never turned into resentment because Mom's overall effort to be fair remained clear in daily life. Still, the subtle gap lingered in my mind over the years, shaping how I viewed my place in our small family unit. It taught me early on that relationships could have layers not always visible to everyone involved. Our Hill District house held all the childhood memories for Autumn, and me filled with everyday moments like shared meals at the small table, or summer days spent playing in the limited space we had available. We celebrated birthdays with homemade cakes Mom baked, despite her fatigue marking another year with simple gifts wrapped carefully. Holidays brought decorations we put up together, creating traditions that tied us to the place no matter how modest it was. School projects scattered across the floor turned the living room into a workspace where Mom helped both of us late into the evening. Those ordinary experiences built the backdrop of our upbringing, making the house more than just walls, but a container for everything we went through as sisters growing up under Mom's care. 3 years before Mom was diagnosed with her illness, I made the decision to quit my job in another city and move back to Pittsburgh so I could care for Mom full-time, after the doctor explained that her health was starting to decline in serious ways. Leaving my position meant giving up stability I had built over years, but seeing Mom struggle with everyday tasks made it clear she needed someone close by every day. I packed up my apartment, quickly arranged the move within weeks, and settled into the old house to handle appointments, medications, and whatever else came up. Mom protested at first, saying she did not want to burden me, but I insisted it was the right choice because family came first during tough times like this. Taking on the role changed my routine completely, filling my days with hospital visits and learning about her condition while trying to keep her spirits up. On the nights when Mom could not sleep because of the pain, she would reach for my hand in the dark and start talking about her worries regarding Autumn, mentioning how Autumn seemed to be changing in ways that troubled her. Mom's voice would soften as she described small things like missed calls or short responses to messages that added up to a bigger shift. She confided in me during those quiet hours, sharing fears that Autumn might be pulling away for reasons she could not figure out. Mom often said, "Autumn used to tell me everything, but now it's like she's keeping a wall up." Those conversations left me listening carefully, offering reassurance, while feeling the weight of Mom's unspoken sadness about the growing distance. Mom pointed out how Autumn called home much less often than before, with weeks sometimes passing without a real conversation, and her tone carried deep regret whenever she brought it up. She would recall the days when Autumn phoned almost daily just to check in or share something from work, contrasting it with the current silence that felt unnatural. Mom wondered aloud if something at Autumn's job in Philadelphia was overwhelming her, yet no clear answers came from the brief talks they did have. The change bothered Mom enough that she brought it up repeatedly during our late-night talks, hoping I might have insight she lacked. Hearing that regret in Mom's words made me pay more attention to the pattern myself. Autumn only came to visit on weekends, and always left early, never staying long enough for extended time like she used to in previous years. Her arrivals felt rushed, with quick hugs and updates delivered in a hurry before she cited commitments back in Philadelphia as the reason for departing soon. Mom looked forward to those short visits, preparing favorite meals ahead, but the brief stays left her quiet afterward. Autumn's schedule seemed packed, yet the pattern of short trips became consistent, reducing the family time we once counted on. Those limited hours together highlighted the shift more than anything else. Mom sighed often and told me Autumn appeared to be creating distance from the entire family, even though she could not pinpoint the exact cause behind it. She expressed confusion about what might have triggered the change, wondering if life in the city had simply pulled Autumn in different directions. Mom said once, "I just wish Autumn would open up like she used to. It hurts not knowing what's going on with her." The uncertainty weighed on Mom especially as her own health issues made connection feel more precious. She held on to hope that things would improve, but the ongoing separation added to her emotional load. I noticed myself that Autumn shared very little about her job or daily life in Philadelphia, turning conversations surface level whenever we spoke, and avoiding deeper topics altogether. Calls with her focused on quick check-ins without details about friends, work challenges, or plans, leaving gaps that grew over time. The lack of openness made family interactions feel strained, as if part of her world stayed completely closed off. I tried asking gentle questions to draw her out, but responses remained brief and deflected. That growing reserve contributed to the overall sense of separation settling over us all. Not long after my mom slipped away quietly in her sleep one night, after her condition had declined steadily in the weeks leading up to it. The hospice nurse called me early that morning, and I sat by her bed until the funeral home staff arrived to take her. Everything felt surreal as I signed the necessary forms and began notifying people about the loss. Autumn flew in from Philadelphia the same day, arriving at the house with red eyes and a small suitcase. We spent the next few days planning a simple service together, choosing a casket and flowers that suited Mom's straightforward tastes. Autumn stayed long enough to attend the burial with me standing close during the short graveside ceremony as a small group of friends and relatives gathered. We lowered the casket and shared a few words with those who came to pay respects, keeping the event modest just as Mom would have wanted. Autumn helped place the flowers and spoke briefly with attendees afterward, offering thanks on behalf of the family. The day ended with us returning to the house in silence, both exhausted from the emotional weight of saying final goodbyes. We finished all formalities at the cemetery office before heading back. Autumn soon began asking me about the location of specific papers Mom had kept, focusing on the house deed and details for any bank accounts still active. She brought it up casually during dinner one evening, saying it would help to have everything organized for what came next. I mentioned the main folder I had already found with basic documents, but Autumn wanted to know if Mom had stored others in different places around the house. She spent time looking through drawers in the study, pulling out files to review quickly. Autumn said, "I need to get back to Philadelphia soon because work is backing up." Autumn reviewed several papers that afternoon, noting down references to property and finances, before mentioning her job required her to return promptly. She explained that her boss had given limited time off, so extending the stay was not possible. Autumn packed her bag the same evening, booking a flight for the following morning. She gave me a quick hug before bed, promising to stay in touch about any decisions. The departure came just one day after the burial wrapped up, completely shifting all remaining tasks to me alone. Autumn left Pittsburgh early the next morning for her flight back to Philadelphia, leaving me to handle the house on my own. Her exit felt abrupt, but she insisted professional obligations left no flexibility. I drove her to the airport in quiet, watching her check in and disappear through security without much conversation. The drive home alone emphasized the solitude ahead as I faced sorting through Mom's belongings. The house seemed larger in her absence, with every room reminding me of recent events. I remained in the house to manage everything Mom had left behind, starting with clothes neatly folded in closets and moving to personal items on dressers and shelves. The process involved folding garments for donation and setting aside pieces with sentimental value like scarves Mom wore often. I cleared out bathroom cabinets of medications and toiletries, labeling boxes for charity pickup. Days blurred as I worked room by room, pausing over letters or small keepsakes that brought back memories. Handling those details became my way of processing the loss gradually. While flipping the worn liner from the bottom of Mom's old nightstand drawer during cleaning, I discovered a thick envelope covered in dust concealed carefully underneath. The placement suggested deliberate hiding as nothing else occupied that space. I pulled it out slowly, brushing off layers of dust that revealed how long it had stayed untouched. The envelope felt heavy with contents sealed inside, drawing my full attention away from the routine task. Curiosity grew as I held it, wondering why Mom had chosen to keep something so well out of sight. The morning after, I took the photograph and the papers from the envelope to several of Mom's old acquaintances the very next day, hoping someone might recognize the baby girl she held so tenderly in the image. I started with her former nursing colleague, who lived nearby, meeting at her home where we sat in the living room with tea. She examined the picture carefully, zooming in on details with her reading glasses, but ultimately said the child did not ring any bells from Mom's stories or shared photos over the years. I thanked her and moved on to another friend Mom had known from church groups, showing the same items during a short visit. That friend studied it just as thoroughly, recalling many events from Mom's life, yet she too could not place the infant at all. No one among Mom's longtime acquaintances could identify the baby Mom cradled in the photograph, increasing my confusion about where the image fit into her past. Each person I asked expressed genuine interest and spent time looking for clues in the background or Mom's expression, but nothing clicked. One suggested it might be a distant cousin Mom rarely mentioned, while another thought it could be from a hospital case she handled professionally. Their inability to provide answers only heightened the sense that this was something Mom intentionally kept separate from everyone. The consistent blank responses left me with more questions than when I began the search. I chose to drive straight to the office of Mr. Lawrence Burke, Mom's longtime lawyer, the one person she had always relied on for confidential matters throughout her life. I scheduled an appointment the same afternoon, arriving with the envelope secured in my bag. The waiting room felt familiar from past visits Mom made for routine updates to her will or property documents. I entered his office when called, taking the seat he offered across from his desk. The atmosphere carried a seriousness that matched my growing unease about the discovery. I placed the full envelope on Mr. Burke's desk and asked him to look through everything inside right there in his office. He opened it methodically, removing the photograph first and holding it up to the light for a better view. Then he unfolded the accompanying papers, reading each one with focused attention that lasted several minutes. Mr. Burke went back over certain sections twice, his brow furrowing slightly as he absorbed the contents. He set the items down carefully before meeting my eyes again. Mr. Burke studied the documents and photograph for an extended time before leaning forward to share the truth Mom had entrusted him to protect for so many years. He began by confirming details from the papers, explaining choices Mom made during a challenging chapter she never discussed openly. Mr. Burke said quietly, "Your mother wanted this to stay private unless something like this came up after she was gone." The revelation unfolded steadily as he described legal steps Mom took to safeguard certain aspects of her life. His explanation revealed intentions driven by deep care and difficult circumstances at the time. I remained silent while listening to Mr. Burke, sensing the world around me pause as the full truth emerged piece by piece. The information reshaped understandings I had carried about our family without ever questioning them before. Mr. Burke allowed space for the weight of his words to settle, speaking with respect for Mom's wishes throughout. Emotions built gradually as connections formed between the hidden items and events from long ago. Sitting there, absorbing everything, marked a profound shift in how I viewed Mom's past decisions and sacrifices. That weekend, Autumn started calling from Philadelphia, pushing to move forward with dividing the estate as quickly as possible, without any further delays. The calls came at different times, sometimes in the morning before work, or late in the evening when I was winding down. She repeated the need to settle everything soon, citing reasons related to her own schedule and financial planning. Autumn's messages grew more frequent, filling my phone with notifications that I began to dread answering. The persistence caught me off guard, as we had not spoken this often since Mom's passing. Autumn proposed selling the house in Pittsburgh to convert it into cash, arguing that a larger share should go to her, for personal reasons she did not fully explain at first. She outlined potential buyers or real estate options during one conversation, emphasizing how the market favored quick sales. Autumn suggested splitting proceeds unevenly, claiming her circumstances justified the adjustment. She brought up past contributions to the property upkeep, framing it as grounds for the imbalance. The idea of letting go of the home so soon felt wrong to me on every level. I stood firm in refusing to sell the house, explaining that keeping it preserved family memories and served as a connection to Mom we both needed. I countered with an offer to divide the savings accounts equally while leaving the property untouched for now. Autumn listened briefly before dismissing the suggestion, insisting the house represented unnecessary holding costs. I repeated my position calmly, focusing on emotional value over immediate financial gain. The refusal marked the first real disagreement we had faced over Mom's estate matters. My old friend Sarah sent me a message one afternoon, sharing that Autumn faced serious financial difficulties with mounting credit card debt back in Philadelphia. Sarah mentioned hearing about it through mutual contacts who worked in the same industry. The information explained some of the urgency behind Autumn's calls, though it did not change my stance on the house. Sarah advised caution, noting patterns of spending that had escalated recently. Receiving that update shifted my perspective slightly on Autumn's motivations without softening my resolve. The calls from Autumn became increasingly sharp, filled with accusations and pressure designed to force me into agreement. She raised her voice during several conversations, questioning my priorities and loyalty to family. Autumn accused me of dragging things out unnecessarily, claiming delays hurt everyone involved. The tone shifted from requests to demands, leaving me drained after hanging up. The escalation built tension that affected my daily routine more than I expected. Autumn kept emphasizing that I acted selfishly by holding on to the house without considering her situation at all. She repeated phrases about fairness and shared responsibility, twisting them to highlight what she saw as my unwillingness to compromise. Autumn brought up childhood promises or implied obligations, using emotional appeals to push her point. The constant refrain wore on me, creating doubt even as I knew my reasons remained valid. She ended many calls with warnings about prolonged conflict, adding to the overall strain between us. 6 months after the burial, Autumn formally filed a petition in the Allegheny County Probate Court to contest Mom's will and demand an uneven division of the estate in her favor. The paperwork arrived by certified mail one afternoon, outlining claims that caught me completely off guard. She argued for a larger share based on contributions she alleged over the years, requesting the judge override the original terms. The filing forced a hearing date within weeks, turning what had been private tension into an official legal battle. Receiving the notice made the conflict feel irreversible, pulling everything into the open. At the hearing in the courthouse downtown, Autumn took the stand first and delivered a long argument about how she deserved the majority because she had been the one truly building the family with Mom from the very beginning. She spoke confidently to the judge, describing childhood responsibilities she took on and financial help she provided during Mom's illness. Autumn claimed emotional investment that outweighed any equal split, saying, "I was the one who stayed involved when things got hard, and that should count for something." Her testimony painted a picture of dedication, emphasizing moments she positioned as sacrifices. The delivery carried conviction, making her case sound reasonable on the surface. I sat listening from my side of the room, feeling drained and unable to mount a strong counter during my turn to speak when called. The accusations stung, bringing up old dynamics in ways that left me searching for words. I managed basic responses about wanting fairness and honoring Mom's intentions, but nothing forceful came out. Autumn's prepared statements overshadowed my quieter explanations, creating imbalance in the presentation. The judge noted points from both sides without immediate reaction, leaving me worried about the outcome. Mr. Burke arrived unexpectedly in the courtroom that morning, taking a seat quietly until called as a witness approved by the court after my brief mention of his role. He walked to the stand with documents in hand, ready to provide testimony Mom had discussed with him previously. The judge allowed his input as the drafting attorney for the final will, giving weight to his professional knowledge. Mr. Burke remained composed throughout, focusing on facts rather than opinion. His presence shifted the atmosphere noticeably. Mr. Burke presented the official adoption papers from 1988, along with the last will Mom signed, while fully competent and free from influence. He explained the timeline, clearly confirming Mom's mental capacity through medical notes and witness signatures at the signing. Mr. Burke stated, "Mom executed this document with full understanding, and it includes specific provisions she insisted on." The adoption record established Autumn's legal status from early childhood, separate from biological ties. He handed copies to the judge for review, ensuring transparency in the process. The will laid out explicit terms that the house must convert to a charitable trust for patient support and could not be sold, while excluding Autumn from inheritance due to evidence of undue influence during Mom's vulnerable period. Mr. Burke detailed emails and notes showing pressure applied when Mom's health declined, meeting legal standards for manipulation. He quoted the clause directly, "Any beneficiary attempting to exert undue influence shall forfeit their share." The provisions reflected Mom's final clear wishes, protected against challenges. The revelation landed heavily in the room, changing everything presented earlier. 1 year later, the court completely dismissed Autumn's petition and ordered her to pay all attorney fees, along with an additional surcharge for bringing a frivolous challenge without basis. The judge cited clear evidence of Mom's capacity and the no contest clause that triggered forfeiture upon contest. Autumn received the ruling in writing shortly after, outlining costs that ran into tens of thousands due to prolonged proceedings. She appealed briefly but dropped it when advisors explained the low chances and rising expenses. The final order closed the case, firmly enforcing Mom's wishes without further alteration. Autumn lost every claim to inheritance under the terms, leaving her with nothing from Mom's estate beyond a few personal items already distributed earlier. She moved out of Philadelphia to an unknown location soon after the decision, changing numbers and addresses without notice. Contact attempts went unanswered, confirming the complete break she initiated. The silence replaced previous arguments, creating a void that felt both relieving and final. No messages or updates arrived, marking the end of any remaining tie. I retained full control of the house in Pittsburgh and transformed it into a small support center for patients dealing with the same illness Mom faced in her final years. Local organizations helped set up weekly meetings and resource sessions in the living room, where families shared experiences. Volunteers coordinated visits and information packets, turning the space into something useful for the community. The change honored Mom's memory by focusing on help rather than sale, aligning with her charitable intent. Activities grew steadily as word spread among support groups. I often sit alone in the house, reflecting on the days spent with Mom, realizing that family love does not always appear equal or obvious on the surface. Those quiet moments bring back conversations we had during her illness, showing care expressed in ways unique to each relationship. The differences I noticed growing up make sense now as part of Mom's individual approach to parenting. Memories surface without bitterness, highlighting protection she extended in her own manner. Understanding that variation brings peace about past perceptions. I learned the importance of setting firm boundaries with people who cause deep hurt, even when shared history exists from growing up together under one roof. The experience taught me to prioritize self-protection over forced reconciliation when trust breaks beyond repair. Recognizing manipulation patterns early allows space for healing without ongoing damage. Those limits preserve energy for positive connections instead of exhausting conflicts. Applying them created clarity in relationships moving forward. This story shows that greed and betrayal can destroy family bonds faster than any outside force, while hidden truths about origins sometimes explain long-standing tensions. Protecting yourself by enforcing boundaries after severe hurt is not cold, but necessary for personal peace. Honoring a loved one's final wishes, even when they reveal painful realities, brings closure and purpose. In the end, choosing integrity over forced unity leads to healthier lives, reminding us that not all relationships deserve endless chances despite shared pasts. 78 words. Thank you so much for staying with me through this entire story about family secrets, loss, and difficult choices. Your time means a lot, and I'm grateful you listened until the end. If anything resonated or you have experiences with inheritance disputes or sibling rifts, please share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your perspectives.